Well, hello traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little and this is your daily NeoTA Wrap. We take a look at these markets doing it from a neoclassical perspective. That means each time we ask ourselves what happened today and what does it tell us about the coming ones. I do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube and it's under the channel L.A. Little. If you want to subscribe, reach up in the right hand corner and do so. Anytime I push content, you'll get a notification. I do a Cradle to Grave series that, it's winning a lot of fanfare. Folks liking it. If you, interested in watching this neoclassical play out live on individual trades, I do those tape delayed to the general public. I do them on a live basis, of course, with members, keeping them up to date with trades that we're in. As far as the S&P 500 here, I'm going to skip straight to the charts tonight. I'm going to have to cut this short tonight. But what I want to show you here, we did have an update today, and the big news today here was the reversal again inside this range. So remember, we've been watching this bar. This is the a quad witching bar that took place, a few weeks back. That has all the volume on it. That has been holding price. They haven't been able to take it down. And today they came down, they test again, they reverse, they head back up. There's really a little range that's sitting in here, right? And this little bit of range has been playing out now for a good 2 weeks. They're back up at the top of the range, and I suspect they're going to try one more time to break it out. If they can't, then they'll come back down to the other side again, and it just keeps going and oscillating back and forth between these. The news today, really, in my mind, was here on the NASDAQ. If you look at the NASDAQ and you go back now to the quad witching bar here, which we haven't talked about yet, and you drag that one across and take a look at it, right? This NASDAQ was coming right into that level. Volume's not even close, right, in terms of comparison. Gets into it, reverses, goes back the other way and holds. So the NASDAQ respecting that big bar now that it's finally come back to it. And if you look a little deeper, look at the index 100 itself, that quad witching bar is back here, 44.20. We only got to 44.35, so we're still a ways away from it, probably about right there. And so if we do head back down, I suspect you're going to see the same thing that happened with the NASDAQ today play out here on the NDX, and that is that as you come into this price point, those buyers that are out there still chomping at the bit to buy, that's where they're going to be looking, right into that area. So that's another one to put on your watch list in terms of what's happening. The big news today was really in the Russell. Russell was strong all morning, was leading the indexes up early, jumped up about 1% and held. Again, Russell has the same sort of a range here. It's still playing inside that range. As the big bar, it got into it. Usually you get into that deep, you come to the bottom, and so that's kind of a warning sign that maybe this darn thing isn't going to break down. Trying to get this market to break down is worse than pulling teeth. I mean, I've seen some sticky markets over the years, and this one again is in that favor. Here's that quad witching bar, bottom of the bar. That's what it's been playing with. Still can't break it down. If you can't break it down, you'll try to break it out. If you can't break it out, you'll try to break it down. That's price discovery. That's what we try to figure out on the charts. That's supply and demand on the charts. One last thing here while we're on the Russell, let's look at the weekly. The top of that swing point low that was broken, 1121. In the neoclassical world, we call that a retest, regen. That's a bearish one, so it's trying to break to the downside. It does a full retest, so in other words, it gets all the way to the top of that area and attempts to come down. Now, in terms of breaking down, you got to get back under the swing point low. So far, it hasn't done it. If it does get back below it, then we're going to say that's trying to regenerate to the downside. But so far, so good if you are a bull. And where was the strength today? Well, it was over in the energy sector, right? We had oil spiking. That spiked the energy sector. Energy finishes up almost 3%. Swing point high here at 64.28. Trades up to 64.32. Gets over it, back under it. Volume on that high was 26.9. You go into it with 27. That tells me it's going to try one more time to get in that bar. So tomorrow I would expect another attempt to break through that area, given the way it's set up. Let's look at, I want to go over to the ox markets here. In particular, we've got the ECB coming up. You got earnings coming up. You got JP Morgan in the morning. That's going to be a big number in the morning. Matter of fact, let me just pull up the XLF here. The XLF hasn't been able to be as strong as the rest of the market. This is going to be a key index as the rest of the week goes on, because you got Citigroup, you got Bank of America, you got JP Morgan, you got Wells Fargo, you got a bunch of the big ones this week. They're the ones that kind of set the tone for the financial group. We'll see if they can actually push this market up. If they can't, and if they really do come out as even worse than is expected, and especially if their guidance isn't very good, then you're probably going to finally see this market try to sell down. And so far it hasn't. I mean, the way this thing has been set up the last 3-4 days looked to me like it was going to break it down, right? And this morning it looked that way too. But then, you know, they come out of the woodworks, they start buying, and they push it back up. And if they can't break it down, then you got to respect it. You got to respect that they're just not ready. And the supply-demand situation is such that the demand is greater than the supply at that price point. And that's what we've been seeing so far. I want to go over to the dollar, though, because the dollar to me is becoming the key thing here. We got the ECB coming out on Thursday. Now, if you've been following what's going on with these central bankers, right, what we've had so far is we've had the dollar pushed lower by the fact that Yellen keeps telling us that, you know, she can't trust the data now. Remember, I mean, go back and look at all the stuff that's happened. First, it has to be employment under, you know, I don't know, it was 8% or something, or, you know, whatever the number was. And then it's all the way down to 5 something, right? Still not enough. Okay, we got to factor inflation in now. We got to get inflation up to 2%. Okay, inflation now looks like it's, you know, close to that. And that ain't enough, right? Because now we need the world markets to settle down. And what are we going to do there? Well, we're going to say that we can't trust our data now. I mean, we're data dependent, but we can't trust the data. It is such a joke as to the way this stuff keeps playing out. Here's the UUP, the dollar. Dollar has been, you know, coming off these highs. Made a high back here at almost 26 on the UUP. It's down to 24.30, right? So you're talking about a $1.70 almost, $1.60, let's call it, off of this thing. You know, that's a pretty good percentage over this period of time. The angle of descent is not horrible. I mean, 45 is about there, so, you know, it's a little bit of an angle. But, you know, it's been holding up pretty well. Just drifting down, and that's because, you know, we're not going to raise our rates, and that's why I bring it up. The ECB comes out on Thursday, and the expectation is after doing what they did, they're probably not going to do anything else now. So what does that mean? That means the dollar is going to come down here and try to spike this, at least spike it, or potentially break it down. Now, you have ABCD structures that are already in place and that basically have already finished or just about finished if they haven't finished. And so if I look at this guy, you know, this is, if I can get this drawn in, let's try one more time here. Let's go this way. That is just about the ABCD structure on the downside, right? So the level from here to here is about the same as the level from there to there, a little bit different, but almost the same. So we're almost at the D point of the ABCD structure. It wouldn't surprise me to see us at least spike that, then push back higher at best. Now the real question is, will you actually spike it, and will you get any kind of real bounce out of it? Because the real issue is the bigger range that's still in effect over here, and does it hold? If it doesn't hold, right, then you're going to finally come back into these swing point highs that are down underneath here, and you can actually draw a little range right in the middle there, right? And so I would expect if we can't hold that spike low, right, then we're going to drift straight back into here. In other words, you know, you can do it one of two ways. The more likely case is you come into this area and you bounce back to this area, then you come back and try to break it if you're really going to break it. The unlikely case, right, is that this thing just breaks it right now and just keeps going. That's unlikely. And matter of fact, if that were to happen, The buys on these swing point high tests, which would be the bullish retest region, would be quite convenient, shall we say. And you can see the big support zone shown there on the TA Today charts. So I'm looking to see how it behaves as we come into Draghi. I'm expecting it to spike that low, bounce back off of it, and then eventually come back down with a larger ABCD structure setup. So you can kind of imagine an A point here, the B point on that spike down, right? Then some sort of a bounce back to that 25 area, and then the move back down to test these swing point highs. That's the way it looks like it's setting up. Now, given that, if that happens, right, if the dollar starts to bounce, you're going to hurt some things. You're going to hurt some commodities. You're going to hurt some other things. So you can take that, read that how you need to make some decisions about what you want to do. Speaking of the dollar, let's go to the flip side. Here's the FXE hanging up here at the highs. This thing just looks like it wants to go higher, but we'll have to see if it can break higher or not. It actually got over the swing point high, did a doji over, back under. Right now, another doji going on so far this week. Euro would be problems if it starts breaking over this swing point high. Okay, so what do we have? We have a market that won't break down. We have a Fed beige book tomorrow. We've got the ECB on Thursday. Those are the known events, along with the earnings that start tomorrow in the financials with JP Morgan, followed by Citibank, Wells Fargo, and I believe Bank of America on the next 2 days. So those are going to be the key earnings. That's the setup coming into the end of the week here. And so far, this market will not yell uncle. And believe me, I'm about as frustrated as one can be. I've stabbed and jabbed at this 3 or 4 times now and simply can't catch the turn I'm looking for. And, it doesn't mean I've sold all my longs. I keep doing some speculative shorts, but they don't play out. And it's a tough thing when you're trying to trade against the trend. If you're going to trade against the trend, you got to realize it's counter trend. Counter trend means you stab and jab. You make your move, you try to time it. If you're wrong, you pull out, you wait for another setup, and then you try it again. And right now, so far, this market's frustrating anyone trying to do that. I'm going to leave it at that tonight. I think tomorrow's going to be an interesting day. We've bounced back up to the highs. We've got the dollar sitting at the lows. We've got the ECB on Thursday morning. Anybody's going to do any moves, they're going to do it tomorrow before the market opens on Thursday, because the ECB will have already done what it's going to do. Have yourself a great night. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Good night.